Good morning. How are you this morning? May the force be with you. I'm just going to say that right off the top. So, if I were to pick a color, I would pick red today. Because I am sore. Yesterday I was getting out big flower pots with dirt and moving outdoor furniture, and my back is sore this morning. How are you? Lovely day yesterday, wasn't it? What's the date today? If we were at school, we would be saying it's Monday Night Football. Oops, I just gave it away, didn't I? I do that every time. It's because if it was just football, I should say. So it is Monday. And there's the number. Number 4. The 4th. And I gave you a clue of what month it is. January, February, March, April, May. There it is. May, and the year 2020. 2020. And that's why I said, may the 4th be with you. So it's Star Wars today. Star Wars Day. And the weather. Oh, so different from yesterday, isn't it? If I look out my window, it is cloudy and very windy. And this is the temperature. How come it's not doing that? There we go. So there it is, 3 degrees in Blue Mountains. Oh, Meaford's a little bit sunnier than we are. See that? A little bit sunnier in Meaford, but still the same degrees. Not like yesterday. Oh my goodness, they're calling for snow on Friday. No. That can't be true. They're gonna have to change that. No more of the white stuff. News today. Prime Minister Trudeau, he wants you to know if you have applied for the CERB benefit, which is the $2,000 a month, that you have to reapply. They're having a virtual summit today, and they're going to have funding for the vaccine. So they found, Canadian scientists have found and identified the property in your blood that fights the COVID-19. So they've identified that. So they're going to be making vaccines, hopefully starting to test in July. So that's huge news. And Ford, I think reluctantly, but he must be getting pressure, is saying that yes, we're going to start to slowly reopen the economy, and we're starting with seasonal things like golf courses and gardening stores and lawn care, which is kind of ironic because we've been already having lawn care at the condo corp, so I don't know how it's different, but maybe they weren't supposed to. Some good news around the world. Italy is also starting to open slowly. Their slope has come right down, so they have done a great job in self-isolating and physical distancing. So that's good. So they're going to start to open things as well. Justin Bieber did a really nice thing. He ordered dinner for all of the hospital staff in Stratford. And he did it to not only say thank you to the hospital first responders, but he also wanted to help the restaurant, because the restaurants are definitely finding it challenging to stay open if people aren't coming to purchase takeout and things like that. So I think that was very nice of him. Okay, poor Charlie Brown today. He's at school, and look at the ha 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 ha. Everybody's laughing at Charlie Brown because of the spelling bee. And then his classmate behind him says, "I told you you would make a fool out of yourself." And Charlie Brown says, "A comforting word from a friend." I don't know. I think Linus is his friend. I don't know if she is, but poor Charlie Brown. And birds. This morning, there were 2 woodpeckers at my bird feeder, and I went out to take a picture, and I did get a picture, but then I noticed that there was no bird feed inside my little container. And so I went out and it was completely gone. And I had just put in a new, I use the suet blocks. It was gone. I just replaced it yesterday. So either a grackle came or some squirrels and they tipped it. That's the only thing I could think. And they got the whole thing. The last one I've had in there for a month. This one day. So those poor little woodpeckers were just getting the little scraps stuck to the wood. So I put a new one out there for them. And I tied a string around my bird feeder. Maybe that'll stop the bigger birds or the woodpeckers. I don't know. Or the squirrels. And I also, on Saturday, had 2 golden finch. That was the first time, and I just so excited. I thought that they're like pets. It's like I have more pets besides just Olive. Okay, the item on Friday was this, but now it's all closed up. So it looks different than on Friday. I'm trying to get it onto my black shirt there. So do you know what that is? It was yellow, and if I open it up, there's some seeds and some white. Oh my goodness, there. It's a dandelion. So there was all kinds of those out on the weekend. And this is my other item. We've had this one before, but now it's looking a little bit different. So, do you know what that is? I'll tell you tomorrow. And I have a sound. Do you know what that is? There's a grate in the ditch. So you don't see that too often. So obviously that ditch overflows. So they've made a grate right in the ditch so it has extra place, and they've dug under the road so the water has some place to go. Pretty smart. So that was water trickling from the ditch into a grate. Okay, so today our life skill is going to be talking about some items that are hot. So things that we have to be careful around. Some things that we have to, when we're around them, we might have to wear a safety thing to help us not get burnt. So the first is the oven. So if you were to take this dish out of the oven, it would be hot. So you wouldn't be able to touch it like I'm touching it now. So you would use the oven mitt to take it out, because this can get hot. So hot that when you touch it, it will burn your fingers. So there's one thing. A microwave. If you put something in the microwave, it can be very hot. My mom actually burnt her hand. When microwaves, we got our first microwave and she had plastic wrap over the top. That was before we knew not put plastic wrap in it. And when she took the plastic wrap off, the steam gave her really bad burns all the way up her hand. So when you're using the microwave, sometimes you might also need this to get things out of the microwave. I'm just getting a call from one of my parents, or a text, I should say. I'm just gonna let her know. That I'm just doing the YouTube video at the moment. Okay. So there was the microwave. Boiling water. So you can have a kettle that boils water. This would be extremely hot. Once you see that steam coming out, or you hear it, you can hear it. Or on the stove, if you're boiling water to do eggs, or boiling water to do pasta. That steam, those bubbles, mean the temperature is changing and it will be very hot. So you have to be very safe and keep your hands away from the steam and keep your hands away from the very hot water. Let's see, your bath. If you take a bath, you have to make sure the temperature of the water is not too hot. You also have to make sure it's not cold, and this is one of the things at school we're always talking about. So we say, make it feel like your hot tub. So not too hot that you can't step in it, but warm enough so that it's not cold and you're washing your hands with cold water. So you have to get the hot and cold just right so it would be like you're going into a hot tub. Nice and comfy, right? Coffee, tea, and hot chocolate. When we're making those things and we use our tea kettle to put the water in, we're going to drink it. We have to make sure before we drink it that it's not too hot, or we could burn our tongue. And I've done that before. Actually, I've done that many times. So you try and blow on it, and then you test it, and then you blow on it, and you test it. Soup is the same thing. If you get soup, you are going to need to make sure it's not too hot, When the boys were little, I would make them chicken noodle soup, and sometimes we would put an ice cube in it before they started to eat it. You also can get very hot, and that's called a temperature. And you might use a thermometer to find out if your temperature is too hot. Because then if it's too hot, you'll have to take some medicine to help your temperature. A candle is another way that you have to be careful, where you could burn yourself on the flame. If you're making cookies and you have, this is where one of my students, she got burned at school. I felt so bad. And she even had her oven mitts on. But what happened was she didn't grab the pan properly or hardened, like firm enough, and she got burnt right there. So not only do you have to be careful and wear your oven mitts, but when you wear your oven mitts, you still have to be careful, because you have to practice grabbing things with that mitt, because it's different than grabbing things with your bare hand. This is way different. You have less control. So it's something to practice when things aren't hot. Another one is a campfire. And as we're getting into the nicer weather, some people might have campfires. And I know, as when I was a kid, I was always told to be very careful of the fire. And when my kids were little, I would be saying the same thing. Be careful around the fire. And they always wanted to have the sticks and get the sticks caught on fire, but you had to be very careful not to get the fire near the grass or get the fire near other people's clothes. So that's another area where you have to be careful and safe. Sun. The sun is hot, and you need to protect yourself from the sun. Connor got a sunburn yesterday. He was out raking at the house, and last night his back of his neck was really red and his forehead, so we put some aloe on it. But what should have he done before? That's right, put some sunscreen on. Sunscreen will protect your skin from the heat of the sun. And the last thing is an iron. And there's different types of irons. There's an iron for your clothes, but there's also irons for your hair. And I've burned my fingers on this before. You have to be very careful. And I don't know, you guys probably don't iron. Our society actually doesn't iron like we used to. My mom used to iron the bed sheets. Like, I don't do that. I do iron like dress shirts or a blouse if I'm going to somewhere fancy, but I don't usually iron that much. But you do have to be careful. And it gets so hot that, well, you can see the steam coming out. That's a good indicator. So those are some areas where you have to be careful. And so when your mom or dad are telling you to be careful about that, or at school when we're taking out cookies, you have to be very careful because you can get burnt. Okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is the zoo. I don't think we're going to have time to do exercise today. But that's okay. You could do your sun salutation. That's what I was going to do, sun salutation and some jumping physio. But I do want to talk about an animal from the zoo. Some reason cap locks are on. That's why my password's not working. There we go. Okay, so this is our animal today. An African penguin. It just seems so ironic that you would have a penguin in Africa, because you think of penguins being in cold places. The African penguin is also known as the black-footed penguin and formerly as the I can't say that word. It's a swear word. Anyway, it has another name, and if you want to look it up, you can look it up. But this is a children's program, so I can't say the word. Anyway, we'll call it the black-footed penguin instead of that other name. This medium-sized penguin has a robust body with black plumage on its back and white plumage with black markings on its chest and belly. The head, chin, throat, uppermost parts of the breast, and the whole of the upper part are black. A broad white band commencing at the base of the bill runs over the eyes and continues around the cheeks, broadening over the upper breast. The length is 45 to 70 centimeters. So that's pretty good. 70 centimeters. Weighs 2 to 5 kilograms, so not too heavy. They feed primarily on shoaling pelagic fish, such as anchovies, sardines, horse mackerel, and round herrings, supplemented by squid and crustaceans. The distance they have to travel to find food varies, both temporarily and spatially. On the west coast, a typical foraging trip could range from 30 to 70 kilometers for a single trip. On the south coast, foraging birds cover an average of 110 kilometers per trip. Wow, they get their exercise before eating. When penguins are feeding their young, the distance they travel from the breeding colonies is more limited. And let's see if they have any trouble with survival. In South Africa, all breeding locations are national parks, natural reserves, or otherwise protected. Collection of eggs is no longer allowed within penguin colonies. Oiled birds are rehabilitated with great success. The population is 19% larger than it would have been without the rehabilitation measures put in place. Well, that's good. So I guess that's part of their survival issue is oil spills, right? We've heard of those before. So there's the penguin, the African penguin. Okay, let's see. I have 1 minute to show you the addition that I wanted to do for the exercises. So I was going to do sun salutation and as well some physio where you're jumping with 2 feet, and then I want you to practice jumping to the right, jumping to the middle, and jumping to the left, jump to the middle, jump to the front, to the middle, and the back, and the middle. So the goal is that you're keeping your feet together and jumping with both feet at the same time. And I know this can be tricky for some because you want to jump with your dominant foot first. But I want you to try and jump with both feet at the same time. Okay, and did you see the lantern? It's right there. Okay. So I got everything in. I just didn't get sun salutation in. So I hope everyone has a good day. It's cold out there again, so maybe you could watch Star Wars today. That would be a fun thing to watch. And I miss you, and I'll talk to you soon tomorrow. Bye.